everyone, and welcome. I'm Greg Gumbel here with my partner Clark Kellogg, bringing you the 2K Sports Season Preview Show. These are the top 5 teams in college hoops as we begin the new season. The Florida Gators come in as the number 1 ranked team, followed by Michigan State, Syracuse, USC, and Georgetown. Clark, what's your take of the teams that make up the top 5?
I like the potential of each of these teams. I think all of them have a chance to win the championship this year. They're poised, loaded with talent, hungry, and very eager to prove themselves this coming year. I think each of these teams will be a dream to coach.
Florida is in the catbird seat to start the season, sitting pretty in the number 1 spot. They bring back 4 starters, and that should pay huge dividends for them this year.
After their Final Four run last March, and with many key players coming back, their confidence has to be sky high. I expect big things from them this season.
Michigan State is in the number 2 spot. These are the defending national champions, and they're getting a lot of respect going into this season.
Usually, last year's champs get the benefit of the doubt in the first poll of the next season. So we'll find out soon enough if their position in the top 5 is based on reputation or is warranted.
Syracuse comes in as number 3. Their ranking is appropriate when you consider they have 4 former high school All-Americans.
If they get contributions from all 4 of those guys, this is going to be a powerhouse team. Their ranking is right where it should be, and I don't see them dropping if they keep it together.
USC starts the year as the 4th-ranked team. They lost a big piece of their team with the departure of last season's leading rebounder.
It's going to have to be a group effort on the boards for a little while until some of the younger big men get the confidence to hold their own game in and game out.
Georgetown is the number 5 team. They carry over 3 starters from last year, so there shouldn't be too much of a learning curve for this team.
Yeah, they've got the core of that team coming back, and that's going to be huge for them. There won't be much of the feeling out process that so many other teams will have to work through early in the season.
Here's the next group of teams in our preseason top 25. What do you think of this group, Clark?
We've seen so many eventual champions that were ranked in the middle of the pack during preseason that these teams have to like their chances. It's not where you start, it's where you finish that counts.
The Wisconsin Badgers, the number 15 team, have stirred up a lot of talk in the offseason. Their dreams of tournament glory last year were quickly dashed in a first-round loss.
This year they have the potential to do much better than last. Last season they spent a lot of their energy getting to March Madness and were worn out once they got there. I'll bet they handled the journey to the tournament much better this time.
The Pittsburgh Panthers, the number 11 team, have also generated a lot of interest. One bit of good news for them, they have last season's leading rebounder coming back for another year.
With that low-post presence already established, they'll have a little bit of swagger heading into the season. I look for them to be sharp right from the start.
Okay, Clark, let's take a look at the teams that close out the preseason top 25 poll. What do you think of this collection?
I'm not convinced that all of these teams belong in the top 25. I don't want to pick out anyone in particular, but I think some teams that aren't on the list could make a pretty strong case as to why they belong here.
The Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, the number 22 team, probably deserve a closer look. They're playing in one of the toughest conferences in the nation. How should that affect them, Clark?
It's virtually impossible to go through a conference schedule unscathed. They'll probably take their lumps, but it might pay off come tournament time, as tough conferences tend to produce tough teams.
The Texas Longhorns, the number 20 team, are also worth keeping an eye on. They have no fewer than 3 former high school Mr. Basketballs on this team.
There are a lot of differences between the high school and college games. Give me 3 former Mr. Basketballs, and I think I could field a pretty good team, just like the one we're looking at.
As usual, we have a lot of new coaching hires to tell you about as we start the season. Here are all the new coaches in college basketball this season. There are quite a few interesting names on the list. The South Carolina coach is one of the hires that drew a lot of media attention. The South Carolina Gamecocks have a lot of fans that are delighted to have a coach of his ability, Clark.
This is a big break for him. He's paid his dues with a lot of stops along the coaching highway, and now it's time for a new beginning. We wish him all the success in the world, Greg. He definitely deserves a fair shot.
The Northwestern coach also made a move to a new school, and that's generated some excitement on that campus. The Northwestern Wildcats are a team looking to rebuild under their new leader.
His personality and this university seem to be a perfect match for each other, Greg. Some coaches' styles are just better suited to certain parts of the country, and this is one of those ideal matches.
We now head to the part of the show where we break down the top players in the nation and show you our preseason All-American list. What you see before you is the cream of the crop in college hoops. What a list. The Florida Gators are going to ask this young man to carry the load for them all season, Clark.
Bush is the first player on the list for good reason. Feels like this guy's been playing college basketball forever. This will be his 4th year as a starter. But I still don't take him for granted. And I think this will be his best season of all of them.
As for our next first-teamer, Georgetown is more than willing to go into battle with him, Clark.
Triplett is simply a spectacular player. Not only could he be depended on for scoring and defense, but he was the top assist man on his team last season as well. That kind of selfless attitude from your star player is invaluable, Greg.
Next up is a player that's drawing comparisons to some of the all-time college greats. The Georgetown Hoyas are fortunate to have him in their corner.
Hannon is one of my favorite players in the country. He's a former high school Mr. Basketball he was New Jersey's Mr. Basketball in high school. He's a hero in his home state, and he hasn't let those fans down. He's taken his game to the next level and improved as the competition has gotten stiffer.
Let's move on to a player who's worked very hard to earn his spot on the list. The Arizona Wildcat can depend on a solid effort from him each and every night.
Wharton is going to play a huge role in his team's success. If I had to pick some frontrunners for the Player of the Year award, he would be right there on the list. I've seen him take over games even when he isn't scoring 30. There are some great scorers among these All-Americans, and he's one of them, but he does much more than score.
And finally, we have another superb player to round out the first team. The Louisville Cardinals will probably get used to seeing him make the impossible look ordinary.
Hendricks is going to have his own personal highlight reel by the end of this season. There's plenty to like about him as a player. He's got that deadly combination of smarts and physical skills that makes him so difficult to defend. A coach's mentality in the body of a world-class athlete. Any questions as to why he's on the list?
Now let's move on to the second team All-Americans. Not such a bad list, huh? These elite players all have the potential to have historic seasons if the right pieces fall into place. The Florida Gators have built their team around this young man's talent. I'd say that's a pretty good idea.
Atkinson was close to a spot on the first team, but there was too much competition this season. He can make things happen on the basketball court thanks to his unique ability to read and understand defenses, while most players are just trying to come up with their next move. He's 3 steps ahead of the game, and that's what separates the good players from the great.
The next player on the team is a sensational player in his own right. Wisconsin is in for a great year if he lives up to his potential.
Cantor is in the spotlight for all the right reasons. He was a multiple threat on the offensive end of the court last season, and there will be more of the same this time around. He led his team in scoring, and it's a lock that he'll do it again.
We can expect to see some amazing performances out of him all year long. The Michigan State Spartans are looking for a lot of production from him, and they probably won't be disappointed.
Carroll
is at the crux of his team's postseason hopes.
We always talk about the guys with great hands. Well, he's got great feet. I love those happy feet. There are few players in the nation with better footwork than him, and that's what allows him to always be in the right position, whether it comes to rebounding or finding space for an open shot.
Our next All-American may have designs on the first team by the end of the season. Michigan State has one of the most reliable go-to guys in the country in him.
Snyder is one of the great talents in the college game today.
He was a tremendous rebounder last season.
He came away with an average of 5 rebounds a game.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him match those numbers again this year. He has a knack for finding the loose ball.
And here we have the final player on our list of All-Americans, the Connecticut Huskies. Know who their fan favorite is going to be this year.
Lloyd is ready to have a breakout season. He stands 7 feet tall and plays center. This is a big man who produces big time, and he does it on a consistent basis. Unless an opposing team can counter with a big bruiser of their own to keep a body on him, he's going to run amok.
All right, Clark, that should do it for us here in the studio. For myself and all of us here at 2K Sports, thanks for watching our season preview. Enjoy all the college hoops action to come, everyone.